Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Gyantimidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Milidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Bol. I am very grateful, very happy, very honored to be with you this evening. New Govardhana. Thank you, Yamunapati Prabhu, for your very gracious, kind words of encouragement. Dravida Prabhu, since we don't know what to speak, if you could invoke some beautiful verses in your poetic, creative, artistic ways, then we'll try to carry from there.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I just had an hour kirtan. I was expecting a half an hour, so I'm a little bit spaced out. Oh, Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appeared just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We'll put it on hold. Start over again. Shri Shri Radhanath Hari Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai.
Haribol.
Haribol. Oh, Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appeared just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our heart and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about. To serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well, you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. One more?
Please.
This is a... Don't get me going. This is a verse by Madhavendra Puri that's quoted by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Kamadinang katina katita palita dhurnideshas. Tesham jata mayna kaduna natrapano pashantihi. Utsrijayatan atayodabate sampratam labnta buddhis. Tvamayata kshadanamabhayam mam liyungsvatna dasye. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy. Yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. One more. All right, this will be the last one. If Maharaj was sitting here, he would hit me with his danda, which he doesn't even have anymore. Maybe it's cane. I'm just kidding. Of course he wouldn't. So this is a verse that describes Krishna entering into the forest of Vrindavan at the beginning of the Venugit chapter. Bahapidam natavarapapu karneyo karnikaram bimbran vasak Kanakakabisham Vaijayanting Shamalam Randhan Venor Adadasudaya Purayan Gopa Vrindar Vrindaranyam Swapavanam Pravishat Gita Kirti. With lovely peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you very much. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is speaking to his very close, intimate friend and devotee, Uddhav. Uddhava was so dear to Krishna that from Mathura he wanted to bless his friend. Because everyone in Mathura and later in Dwarka considered Uddhava to be the closest associate of Krishna. They would take walks together, they would talk and exchange their hearts together. Sometimes they would eat eat together. They would lay next to each other. But the greatest blessing Krishna ever gave to Uddhava is he said, I want you to send a message to the residents of Vrindavan for me. Because when I left Vrindavan some years before, I told them that I would soon return. But time is very relative. What is soon for somebody is not soon for somebody else. So Krishna, who's the absolute truth, who's Satchit Ananda Vigraha, whose form, his personality is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss, who's Janmadya Shayataha, who's the source of everything that exists, who has no beginning and no end. When he says soon, that could mean a second, or it could be a second that's relevant to himself, which could be hundreds and trillions of years by our calculation. When in the 10th canto, Lord Brahma did something to Krishna and his friends, and it said he came back in a moment to see what the reaction was. And that moment was 1 year by earthly calculations. So time is very relevant. Just the day before yesterday, I was listening to a recording of Srila Prabhupada, and he gave the Hindi name for a particular type of insect. I'm not so good at Hindi, I'm sorry. But I can tell you about the insect. They live under a light at night. See, Trivit, I'm learning from you how to rhyme things. A light at night. And they're born after the sun sets. And it's just like a couple of them. They're just flying around. And they spend their youth, their infancy, their babyhood, their youth. Then they start coming together and creating families. And by midnight, there's millions and millions of them. And if you look under a light bulb, you'll see millions of them swarming everywhere. And before the sun rises, the sweeper comes and sweeps them all up. They're all dead corpses. And those little insects actually, by their own perception of time, live equal to 100 years of our time. They were babies, they were children, then they became adolescents. You know what happens when adolescence happens? Then they started having families, and they had children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And then they're really old age. And then they die. And that all happens within about 12 hours, by our calculation. So time is very relative. So Krishna promised the Brijabasis, I'll be back soon. And he kept his promise, but not according to their time reference. And he understood that the Brijabasis were, the residents of Vrindavan, were in so much deep separation. Because they wanted to serve Krishna and make Krishna happy. And in their hearts they knew that Krishna loved Vrindavan. He loved the intimacy. And they longed for him to return because they knew that's where he was happiest. And his happiness was their happiness. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revealed to us a hint of what they were feeling. Yugayatam nimeshena chakshusha pravrashayatam sunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Viraha. In my love and separation from you, dear Govinda, a moment seems like a yuga. Srila Prabhupada would translate it, a moment seems like 12 years or more. How fast is a moment? The reference comes from the Vedas. A moment is called a nimesh. A nimesh is the amount of time when you involuntarily blink your eyes, and it doesn't in any way obscure your vision because you don't even know you're blinking. The amount of time that the lower eyelid touches the upper eyelid is a nimesh. It's approximately less than 1/12 of a second. And the gopis are saying that nimesh seems like 12 years or more to us when we're not with you, Krishna. That is the nature of their love. And that separation, it is explained by our beloved acharyas, when there's love and union, the love of our hearts comes from within outside as an expression through our words, through our vision, through our actions. But in spiritual love, when there's a feeling of separation, that love of our heart goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper within. And because Krishna is absolute, there's no difference between a loving thought of Krishna and Krishna. So Krishna's personally there. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshya arjuna tishtati, in the heart of every living being. And according to the nature of our affection, of our devotion, of our love, Krishna's reciprocating, embracing within. So it's actually the closest, most intimate, loving connection to Krishna that's being directly experienced in these feelings of separation. So Krishna told Uddhava, go to the residence of Vrindavan, because Uddhava didn't understand the extent of this love. He said, you're my best friend, everyone knows. I'll give you my chariot, and I'll even give you my clothes to wear. And when you go to Vrindavan, everyone will know that you are my messenger, and you should give them this really nice message to make them rest assured that I'm thinking of them and I'll soon be back. So Uddhava was thinking, I will do such a nice thing for all Krishna's devotees in Vrindavan. But then when he got there and he saw the nature of the gopas, the gopis, all these devotees' love, the intimacy of their love, he realized, I don't even have a drop of love compared to them. I'm Krishna's best friend here in Mathura, but compared to the devotees in Vrindavan, there's not even a drop of love in comparison. And when he came back to Krishna and he expressed this to him, Krishna said, because you are most dear to me, I sent you there so you could learn from them. In the name of sending a message to be their well-wisher, actually you learn the highest, most deepest spiritual secrets from them of the intimacy of prema or love of God as they're practicing. So later on, Krishna spoke the Uddhava Gita. He spoke wonderful lessons to Uddhava. This is actually just before Krishna he performed the pastimes of his closing chapter in this world, before he departed physically from this world. And there's a story of a king. His name was Yadu. This king was a very great king. He considered all of his subjects, Haribo, just when we're talking about a great Maharaja, king, Bhaji Narayan Maharaj is coming in the room. Thank you, Maharaj, for blessing us with your presence. So although he was an emperor, magnificent palace, great power, armies under his controls, he was young, he was beautiful, extraordinarily wealthy, he was always eager to serve. That was his life and soul. Not what he could get, but what he could give. So he went on a journey. He was traveling through a forest, and he happened to meet the most extraordinary person. The person was an avadut. Now, sometimes when somebody is acting very strange, we say avadut. But really, an avadut is a completely enlightened, totally self-realized, ecstatic lover of God who's just beyond all the conventions of this relative world. So this avadut was young. He was handsome because the king could size up people. As soon as he looked at him, he understood where this person's coming from. But he got bewildered. He said to the avadut, he said, "You are young, you are beautiful, I could see you're extraordinarily intelligent, you're healthy. But why are you living in the jungle all alone? I don't see that you're practicing any religious rituals or any particular process, yet you seem to be so enlightened." And what's really disorienting is everyone in this world is trying to find enjoyment through wealth, through fame, prestige, through enjoying so many pleasures of the mind and senses, by having all kinds of loving relationships. You're just living in the jungle alone. You don't have anything. And yet you're the happiest person I've ever seen. How is this possible? Anandamayo Bhyashat. Everyone's looking for pleasure, and everyone's seeking pleasure with the idea and the promise that if I have more of this, that, and other things, then I'll be happy. You don't have anything. And you're so happy. Can you please clarify this mystery to me? He said, "Actually, I just wander alone in the forest. But I have learned the highest truths from 24 gurus." And the king was really interesting to understand, who are these 24 gurus? He explained. And I'm only going to speak about one or two, maybe three. And then for sure I'm going to get distracted to another subject, because that's usually how my classes go. This is in regard to what Dravida Prabhu has spoken at the commencement of this gathering. He was glorifying Srila Prabhupada by expressing his heartfelt love for Prabhupada. What is actual glorification? Just speaking something nice about somebody is not such a glorification. Prabhupada gives, common example Prabhupada gave is sometimes we glorify a great politician by making a statue and putting him in a square. And then the pigeons come, and the crows come. Oh, I don't know if I told you this story, but I have an experience. I was with some devotees in London, and we were going to take a nice walk. We were chanting or meditating japa, and we were taking a walk through Hyde Park. And there's a castle, which was the childhood home of Queen Victoria. It's a beautiful castle. And there's a wonderful statue of Queen Victoria in front of it. When she was a young girl. She looked so innocent and nice. The Queen of England. And there's because everyone these days has cellular phones. So you dial a number and Queen Victoria speaks to you her life story. It's not exactly that the phone is channeling Queen Victoria, but there's some British actress who's reading a script of Queen Victoria's life, and it's in the words, first person, Queen Victoria speaking. And she's saying, this is the palace that I grew up in, this is what I did then. And she was telling her story, and it was really quite, I was just looking at the statue, and there was all these tourists around, and they all had their cellular phones on with their speakers, and they're all listening. It was really stereophonic experience. I was listening. And she was speaking with such innocence that, you feel for her. And then this big crow landed right on top of her head. And nobody else really noticed. But I've heard these recordings of Srila Prabhupada. So I was expecting what was going to happen next. And the crow was there for about 3-4 minutes, just kind of moving around. And somehow or other, due to my sentimental nature, I was quietly saying to the crow, "Don't do it." Please don't do it. There's all these people around, and they're all like really feeling such, affection for Queen Victoria. Don't do it now. At least, just fly away or something. And everyone was there. And the crow did it. He responded to nature's call, and it was a big crow, and that crow released, it seemed like a massive volume of excrement that just went all across the face of Queen Victoria. And nobody could stand it. There were people crying. Like, oh. And everyone turned off their phones and left because they couldn't bear. Well, actually, I'll tell you exactly what happened. It was unbearable for some of these people. They're listening to her voice, and about half of them left. And then the crow did it again. It was like 2 layers. And everyone left. They couldn't listen anymore. And even I left. But I remembered how Prabhupada says, you make a statue of somebody, and then, once a year, the person who, with the brush that they use to clean the streets, they try to scrape all the pigeon and crow remnants off you. Why I told that story. Anyways, Dravida Prabhu was speaking about Prabhupada. Yes, and real glorification is not just making a statue. It's not just saying, polite words. It's expressing genuine appreciation, genuine gratitude, genuine love. When gracious words come from that place in the heart, that's real glorification, especially for one who has lived a life of pure compassion to all beings by awakening ecstatic love for Krishna in the heart. He was comparing Srila Prabhupada to the light that illuminated all of our hearts. In a similar way, this Avaduta spoke to King Yadu. He said, a saintly person is like the sun. The planet of the sun, it evaporates water from the oceans, lakes, rivers, ponds, and it forms clouds. And then through those clouds, the water is given back in a better form, in a more beneficial form than when it was taken. And similarly, a saintly person, whether they're receiving knowledge, wealth, abilities, even influence over other people in their lives, whatever we receive, the true joy of life is when in the service of the Lord we share it with others. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, when love for Krishna, love for God awakens in our heart, it's expressed in this world in the form of compassion. And here's an Avaduta who has nothing. But whatever he has received from all his gurus, he's sharing. And here's King Yadu, who has so much material wealth, so much power, so much influence, so much education. And yet whatever he has, it's in the service of others. Like the sun, whatever we take, we understand it's not mine. Janasya mohoya mahamameti. The cause, the source of suffering in this world is the misconception that I am this body, I am the designations of this body, and whatever is in relation to the body is mine. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhritam sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim. Truth and peace can truly be achieved when we understand everything is the energy of Bhagavan, of Krishna, of God. Krishna is like the sun, and all spiritual, all material worlds, all living entities, everything that exists is like the energy of the sunshine. And Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, I'm the strength of the strong, I'm the intelligent of the intelligent. I'm the creator and proprietor of everything that exists. Aham bija pradapita. And I'm the seed-giving father, and I'm the mother of every living being. So Sarvaloka Maheshwara means to understand everything is God's property, and whatever I have, it's entrusted to me. I'm a caretaker, and it's meant to be utilized in the service of the supreme ultimate object of our love and the supreme source of everything. That is called yoga or bhakti yoga. When our words, our thoughts, our actions our mind, our bodies, our intelligence, it's all in harmony with our eternal soul. And therefore everything is seen in reference to seva, to serving with love. That's the true nature of the self. And that's the true happiness of the self. And Krishna tells this is a peace formula. Because when we're actually living in harmony with our true nature, there's peace. And peace is simply an aspect of a much deeper experience, and that's prema. That's spiritual love. The eternal nature of the love between God and us. When we actually are free from the false ego, we can experience Krishna's infinite beauty, sweetness, and love. And then the soul, which is part and parcel of Krishna, actually reflects that love, becomes an instrument of that love in whatever we do. Like the sun. We see the sun every day. But the sun is actually teaching us what it really means to love, what it really means to be happy, what it means to be great. That whatever Krishna gives us, we share it in compassion to others. We've been speaking of Srila Prabhupada. When he came to the West, he didn't have anything materially valuable. I just heard of Prabhupada speaking on a recording. He said, in India, myself and everyone I knew, we thought America was such a place of wealth. He said in India, especially, this is in the... Srila Prabhupada appeared in 1896. And he came to America in 1965. And for those of you who have been to India, there's serious poverty. And in those days, there were practically no automobiles. It took forever to get a cheap phone that never worked. The roads were unbearable. And America, roads, cars, telephones, money, nice houses. He thought America would be like a heavenly place. And Prabhupada explained how surprised he was when he was living in the Bowery, and there were actually homeless people in a most pathetic state. Drug addicts, alcoholics, just laying in the street with the rats. And sometimes he would walk down Fifth Avenue and he would see Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, beautiful multi-million and billion-dollar properties. And Prabhupada felt sympathy that these people are so spiritually poverty-stricken. They have all this stuff, but there's no sustainable happiness. There's no sustainable peace. There's no true love. Here's Prabhupada. Doesn't even know where he's going to get the money to buy the next potato. And he's seeing Rolls Royces drive by with people who have everything and elegant jewels wearing, and Prabhupada's feeling sorry for them. They're so poor in spirit. So the knowledge that Krishna gave him, he wanted to share it with the world. And he inspired, according to the true spirit of Bhagavad Gita, people of all walks of life to share what they have for the sake of illuminating people's hearts for the pleasure of God, of Krishna. The Avadhuta said, another one of my gurus is water. How many times do we see water? He's explaining when he sees water, his life is transformed by the knowledge he receives from water or the sun. And he described the earth, the moon, the pigeon. The most ordinary things that we see every day, the mountain. In the Bible it is said, seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will open. So when Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah, that Srila Prabhupada, he opened our eyes with the light of knowledge. And then we actually can, Krishna tells in Gita, when we have knowledge, Krishna says, one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, for that person they're never lost, and I'm never lost to them. So to see, what is Krishna teaching me in this situation? He said the water cleanses. Externally, we use water to take bath to cleanse our bodies. And internally, we drink water to cleanse our internal. He said, a person who's actually in contact with truth, a person who loves God, is like water. When we come in communication, we feel cleansed. They're speaking just like water. Recently I was in Los Angeles area, and I was in this mountain. It was really dry, and I was at this house of some people who were quite wealthy, and they had a waterfall. You know, you turn it on, and then you turn it off. It's one of those kind of waterfalls. But people like the sound of water, just like something like that. Oh, it's so pleasing to the heart. The sound of water, the flowing river, a flowing stream, near the Pacific Ocean, hearing the waves going. It soothes the mind, cleans the body. So the words of persons who are glorifying the Supreme, it cleanses the heart, the words, the actions. Om Pavitra Pavitro Va. That Krishna manifests himself especially through those who are lovingly serving him. We become cleansed. And that's our greatest aspiration. By coming in contact with Krishna, who's Pavitra, we become clean. And to the extent we're actually in connection with Krishna, then our words, our actions, our very presence cleanses others. And we can take no credit for that. If we take credit, we're disconnected from Krishna. We humble to be instruments of that cleanse. He described the earth, how the earth, people are drilling it for oil to exploit, polluting, especially in these days, testing bombs on Mother Earth, putting all sorts of chemicals that deplete her topsoil. So many things are happening on the earth. All of our bodies are basically primarily made out of earth and water, all coming from the earth. So we're all children of the earth in that sense. Krishna is the seed-giving father, Mother Nature. And yet, our own children, in wars and crimes, we're spilling blood all over her. But yet Mother Earth just keeps providing and providing and providing. At every moment we're completely dependent on her gifts. It doesn't matter whether we're brahmacharis living in the ashram or whether we're multi-billionaires. We're all in the same category. Without Mother Earth giving us air and food and water and a body and a brain made out of her elements, we cannot survive for a moment. She's providing, providing, providing. This is an enlightened person, always eager to do good for others. When Lord Chaitanya was a little boy, his mother, Sachi Devi, gave him one of the most delicious Bengali sweets, Sandesh. She gave little Nimai, he was just a very small boy, he was just starting to walk. Kind of crawling around. And she gave him very nice Sandesh that she personally prepared with her own hands. She said, Nimai, here, Sandesh, enjoy, eat. So Nimai, when she went back to her household duties, he went to kind of a secluded place, left the Sandesh aside, began to eat dirt. When Sachi Devi, his mother, saw Nimai's eating, enthusiastically eating dirt. Now, how many of you are mothers or fathers here? Okay, I'll give a more universal question. How many of you know mothers or fathers? I guess that's the only way we're here. If a mother's child sees her little, really small baby eating dirt, handfuls of dirt, what will she think? She'll be horrified. She went to Nimai and said, Nimai, what are you doing? Why are you eating dirt? I gave you nice, healthy Sandesh to eat. It's so sweet. It's so good. Why are you eating dirt? Don't you know if you eat dirt, you will get sick? You may die. And Nimai, just a tiny child, he said, Mother, why are you speaking this nonsense? He said, what's the difference between Sandesh and dirt? Because all grains and all different, every type of food we eat, it's directly or indirectly coming out of the ground, so it's all coming from earth, so it's just dirt. So whether I eat dirt in this form or whether I eat dirt in this form, it's all the same. It's one. Everything's one. All food is dirt. And Sachi Devi, she said, "What nonsense are you speaking, Nimai? Your philosophy is completely impractical. Yes, it is true that all food has its origin in dirt, in the earth. But at the same time, if you eat Sandesh, you'll get strong and healthy. And if you eat dirt, you will get sick. If I take dirt and make a clay pot, I can carry water in it. But if I just take a lump of dirt and pour water in it, it'll just get soaked up and make a mess. So there's a difference." She was teaching Lord Chaitanya the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference. That there's oneness, and this was Lord Chaitanya, one of his primary messages to the world. The philosophy of Achintya Bheda 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 Tattva. That we are simultaneously, inconceivably one with God and different than God. We are simultaneously, inconceivably one with each other and different from each other. And the example is given of the sun again. The sun ray is one with the sun. It's giving off light, it's giving off heat. But at the same time, the sun ray is never the source of the sun. If a sun ray comes into the room, we think, "Oh, so nice." But if the sun planet comes into our room, it's going to be a very different experience. So the variegatedness, the difference, is practical. And we are eternally, Krishna tells in Gita, "Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana." That we're eternally part of the Supreme, like a ray of sun to the sun. Krishna is the source of everything that exists. Janmadya Shayataha. That's the universal definition of God, the source of everything and everyone. The unity and the diversity creates the dynamic in which there can be rasa. There could be the reciprocation of love. Prema is the full realization of the nature of the love of the soul. It's in that diversity, the uniqueness of each and every one of us, that there's that special feature of realizing and tasting Krishna's supreme love and reciprocating with our love. And that is bhakti. And that is something that is ever increasing and never ending. Lord Chaitanya came especially to extract the very essence of all the Vedas with this understanding of God, nature, and every living being, and our relationships with each other. And here, even as a child, he's all-knowing. He's playing the pastime of being a little child with the emotions of a little child. But he's invoking his beloved mother to speak these highest truths to the world even before he did it himself. And after Sachi Mata described like this oneness philosophy without understanding differentiation, variegatedness, is very impractical. It's not satisfying. Nimai accepted defeat. On the basis of this teaching, which he considered so important, he was willing to accept defeat from his mother. He said, "Mother, thank you. This is a very good teaching. Why didn't you tell me before I started eating dirt?" From now on, I promise you, I will not eat dirt. Actually, what I really want is the milk from your body. And he crawled up on Mother Sachi's lap and started drinking her milk. What is that milk? It's the milk of her motherly love. When a mother gives milk to a child, it's the awakening and the personification of her motherly love for that child. And the nourishment of drinking that motherly love, it has a deep effect on the child's consciousness. But in Sachi Devi's case, it was her ecstatic love for Krishna, and Nimai is Krishna. So he was drinking the sweetness of her love of God. God is drinking the sweetness of his mother's love. And isn't that sweeter than eating dirt? And Nimai, he would cry. He would cry, and the only thing that would induce people to stop him from crying is when they all gathered around him to cry out to Lord Hari, to Krishna, to Radha. And then he would smile upon them. Well, he was just a little boy. He was just walking for not long, and one day he left his house and he was just kind of roaming around, and his mother and father put some nice jewelry on him to make him happy. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat both tell the story that two thieves saw this tiny little child with bangles and anklets and necklace, and they were thinking, this is the easiest job we've ever had. Their plan was just to pick him up and somehow get him away from all the family and all the crowds. And in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes in the purport that they were planning to kill him and steal everything he had. These were very bad people. But they had to somehow or other get away from everybody. So they had Sandesh. Somehow I'm making connections. They had these nice, delicious Bengali sweets called Sandesh, and they said, "Oh, my child." And they were, for all the people around, they wanted them to think that they were actually relatives, and they were the well-wisher. They said, "Oh, child, we've been looking for you. We'll take you home." And they'd give him Sandesh, and he'd just be very happy eating because he's already began. His mother taught him how to like Sandesh. So he started eating the Sandesh, and then they put him on their shoulders and said, "Come, child, come, let's go home, let's go home." And he was just having a ride. He was smiling and laughing, and every few minutes they'd hand him another Sandesh. He was on their shoulders, and he'd eat it, and he's smiling and laughing, and they have the intent to kill him. But somehow or other, because he was riding on their shoulders, something was starting to happen to them. Because actually, whatever their intention was at the beginning, they were making him happy by giving him Sandesh. So gradually their hearts started becoming really attracted to this child, and then they thought they were in the forest and they were at their own hideout. And they said, "Child, here, get down." When they put him down, but what they didn't understand is by the Lord's inconceivable energy, they took him right back to the front door of his own house. And all his relatives, they didn't know where he was. They were frantically worrying about the little boy Nimai. They were asking all the neighbors, did you see Nimai? Did anybody see Nimai? Where is Nimai? We can't understand. Where is he? They were searching and searching. And then they see these two people come back. And Nimai just jumps off their shoulders and runs back into the arms of Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, his mother and father. And the thieves are thinking, what happened? We're going to get caught. I think here in California, you say, we're going to get busted. But they were really afraid. As soon as Nimai ran, they said, let's get out of here before they understand what we just did. And they ran away. And meanwhile, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, they said, oh, Nimai, how did you get home? We were looking for you everywhere. And Nimai said, oh, two really nice men. They saw I was lost, and they were giving me nice Sandesh, and they brought me right here home. And they were saying, oh, we must reward these people. And Jagannath Mishra made a nice, beautiful turban, but they couldn't find him anywhere because they ran away. But those two men, because they developed an affection at a certain point for Nimai, and they served him and made him happy, they gradually attained the highest perfection of liberation. Parama Karuna Pahuduina Jana Nitai Gorachandra. This wonderful gift, so freely presenting. And that gift is based on this foundational principle of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. That our deepest potential is to love Krishna. Our deepest yearning and longing of the heart and the soul is to be reconnected to Krishna, to God through love. And that's the only thing that can truly satisfy the heart. Liberation is the cessation of suffering. But the activities of true liberation is loving service. When Srila Prabhupada came to New York City, he saw everything around. He saw everyone around. He wasn't in any way distracted by the grandeur of American society. And he wasn't just distracted by the grandeur of certain sections of Indian society. When we begin to understand and experience bhakti, the love of God that's within our heart, then we understand premadan. That's the true treasure of life. Because it cannot be taken away by time or death. Sukadeva Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, better to live one moment of consciousness of our love for Krishna than long, long duration of life simply wasted in the pursuit of perishing experiences. Because when we make that connection, it is forever. And when Srila Prabhupada, after struggling practically alone, what he went through for us was just such a pastime of love. There's a recording where Prabhupada is explaining how there was a family named Singania. I think his name was Panipat Singania. And he said, this family in India are extremely wealthy. He said they are like the Rockefellers in America. Of course, nobody knows the Rockefellers these days so much. But back in the 60s, they were the most famous wealthy family in America. He said the Singania family, he said, but such spiritual culture they have. He said the eldest son and the brothers, they all live with the mother. And the mother is such a devotee of Krishna that she has a temple of Krishna in the house. And every member of the family, her children, the wives of her children, the husbands of her children, the grandchildren, everyone is to go to the temple to offer their prayers and their love to Krishna every day. And the pujari keeps track of every family member. And if any of the children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren don't come, at the end of the day, the pujari goes to their room. You owe 10 rupees. You did not come. And he shows the list to the mother every day. And she says, oh, they have to answer to her and they have to pay a fine. And Prabhupada said this, but it's all with joy. They understand that she just wants the best for them. To nourish the body, to nourish the mind, to nourish the soul. It's with love, it's with compassion. So he was talking about how happy and united the family are because they all understand this. And Prabhupada at that time, this was 1966, I believe. It's before he had anything. He said, I've just written to Mr. Singania to buy a building. Prabhupada selected a wonderful building somewhere in a very prestigious area of New York City in Manhattan. And Mr. Singania wrote back and said, yes, I will give the money to buy that building, to make a Radha Krishna temple, but I need permission from the government to transfer the funds. The government did not give permission. So Prabhupada was living in the Bowery without anything. And ultimately he got a little beaten down storefront in the East Village, the historic 26 2nd Avenue. And it was a gift shop, kind of a really cheap gift shop in a really run-down little neighborhood. And it was called Matchless Gifts. And when it became a Radha Krishna temple, the devotees were going to erase Matchless Gifts. And Prabhupada said, no, you should leave it. Because Krishna consciousness is a matchless gift. And that matchless gift is love for Krishna. Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajya Kabunoi. That love for Krishna is awakened by associating with people who are aspiring to love Krishna and by chanting the names of the Lord in that association. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Lord Chaitanya, out of his great supreme karuna, compassion upon all beings, he proclaimed that this congregational chanting of God's names is the prime, the greatest, most auspicious benediction for all humanity. At this time, let us have Sankirtan. Thank you.